All right, so in Vice City, if you take the camera outside of the boundaries inside of this gun shop, you can find an Easter egg that is not supposed to be seen by the player. It is an image of Ronald Reagan doing target practice on Gorbachev. What is going on here? So I reached out to Obey Vermege, who worked on Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and here's what he had to say. He said there was very little oversight during Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. Artists would put in little Easter eggs like this just for fun, and as long as it didn't take too much texture space, nobody minded. And this is coming from the literal guy who put the Rockstar logo in the stars and the sniper rifle changing the moon. And to his own testament, he did say that he put them in himself without telling the producer. So obviously what happened here is it's just another Easter egg hidden by one of the developers on a highly unregulated team. And we're gonna look at things just like that and more on this episode of an ongoing series where we basically take the camera anywhere we want to try to find secrets and new discoveries to some of our favorite games. And today we're gonna be looking at Grand Theft Auto Vice City Out of Bounds, and we're gonna see as many interesting things as we can find by going out of bounds. Like for example, something I have not seen anybody talk about on the internet. Here's a whole bunch of images that are completely hidden behind a false wall inside of a cutscene room. And that cutscene room is the Printworks cutscene room. Now, with this false wall, for whatever reason in the PC version, it goes untextured. And that was how I even had the nose to check the walls to see if there's anything weird going on. And boy howdy, was there something weird going on. Taking the camera inside of the false wall can show you the real wall underneath. And with that, is a whole bunch of salacious imagery, stuff that I can't show you. I can show you faces, but I can't show you anything else. If you want to see more, I will throw it on my Patreon along with all the other not safe for work content that I've had to accumulate over these years. Still, I think what's going on here is that these are copyrighted images, some of which feature a famous men's magazine. It's very likely what happened here is that somebody caught this and realized we can't put this in the game because if we do, we might get sued. There's a part of me that feels like this was meant to be something that was supposed to be in the game and then taken out. One little extra tidbit here, like I said, I've been using the PC version, but if you look at the PS2 version, you can see one of the images is actually used in the PlayStation 2 version, and there's another image right next to it that's not even in the PC version. So I would love to check it out, but unfortunately, all we have on both the noclip.website website as well as the camera tool that I have here is the PC version that shows you all these images that, again, don't seem to be used anywhere else. You're welcome to correct me in the comments, though, if you'd like. And hey, if you want to be able to talk like Tommy's family back home, you can do that now with today's sponsor, Mondly. Mondly is a language learning app and is in the top 5 learning apps worldwide. I mentioned Italian, but there are 40 other languages on top of that are from 33 native languages, resulting in a total of 1,320 language combinations. For example, let's just pretend that your language was Italian and you want to learn English, French, or less popular languages like Farsi or Finnish. You can do that with the Mondly app. Mondly has real conversations that you can have with a chatbot with speech recognition. It offers real feedback and helps improve your pronunciation quickly without the need of a real human trainer. You can do daily lessons, weekly, monthly quizzes, and at the end of each month, a user can take a quiz to review and recap what they learned, fortifying the understanding that you have with these language lessons.
Are you not B?
And best of all, it has practical content, which means that you can mainly focus on lessons that'll help you in everyday life, like going to a restaurant or trying to buy a movie ticket or something like that. Now, if you look on the screen here, we got ourselves a winter sale. That means you can get a amazing 96% off lifetime access. And like I said, for a limited time only, you can use my custom link or the QR code to take advantage of that. I'm no mathematician, but you know what? 96% is one heck of a discount. So go ahead, give them a shot. Thank you so much, Mondly, for the sponsorship. And with that said, let's get back to the show. And now I just want to say thank you to Animaniacs for teaching me the word opaque.
No, we're opaque. Now we're clear.
Because I use that word all the time on this show. And here's another example of something that's hidden out of bounds because it's opaque. Everything's opaque. You can't see through into the store. And although there's never a point in time where the door opens so you could see the interior of this building, there is one. This is at Hal and Pete's Biker Emporium, and yeah, when you take the camera inside, you can see a store wall with leather coats, but even more interesting than that is that there seems to be another opaque cuboid surface, but when you take the camera inside of there, there's also a texture for more store accessories, meaning it probably was meant to be glass at one point, but it's not no more. It almost looks like this texture is supposed to be cloth. And like I said, everything you're seeing right here, completely unused, unobtainable to be seen by the player by normal means. And now let's talk about the first cutscene of the game, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about here. So naturally, the first cutscene takes place in Marco's Bistro in Liberty City, which is not featured in Vice City, obviously. So where the heck is this on the map? Well, in the opening cutscene, it's actually really hard to make that decision. I was able to figure this out, and it's not as far as you might think. But before we talk about that, I just want to mention this guy that's in the shadows. It's completely covered up. Sadly, I can't get a good look at him, but it honestly might be Tommy. I don't know, guys. Does that silhouette look familiar to you? I did ask around to see if I could figure out at least what model it could be, but nobody seems to be able to have a good method in order to find that out for me. Also, if we take the camera inside here, we can see that there's a guy hung up on a meat locker hook. Very surprising about that. Now, inside this office, there's a lot of things to see here. We have a performer on a mic. We also have a $125 reward for somebody. There's a newspaper sign here that says Bruno dead, Vera Stretz acquitted. Then another one that says Bruno must die tonight, shrugs at news of doom. A picture of some mobsters. I think that might honestly be Al Capone on the far left. Here's a jukebox that looks like it has Elvis on the bottom left. Here's a mugshot of another mobster. There's also a box of porn farts. I don't know why that's there. I don't know what that means. I think that might be wine, boxed wine. I don't know. But in regular cutscenes of the game, this corner is usually completely blacked out, but thanks to noclip.website, you could read that. And you can read this. It says Versetti, which is really cool, you know, related to the main character of the game. But I don't want to say the rest, because you know how it works here on YouTube. I mean, I probably just got demonetized for saying porn farts, honestly. And yeah, so like, you know, you got the saloon doors here, but it doesn't really lead anywhere. It just looks like almost like an elevator shaft, but it's not. It's just a hallway. And just looking inside the meat locker, just so you know. But the cool thing is that if you zoom the camera out, you can see that all of this is actually stored inside the hotel, the Malibu Hotel. Now, here's the thing. The office isn't loaded in when the cutscene's not in use, though there is a remainder of the saloon doors to prove that's technically always there. But otherwise, you're just gonna find all the things that you would normally find in the Malibu Hotel, unless the cutscene's in use. Which, by the way, speaking of the Malibu Hotel, if we take the camera out, we can see just how much of the environment is actually shown when you're inside the building and not on the outside, which is a lot of environment, frankly, but as you can see, much of Vice City is loaded out. Weirdly enough, there is a chunk of Vice City over there that can be seen, but yeah, for the most part, you're not going to find anything other than just what would be immediately out in the exit doors. And here's another cool one. Inside the movie set area, there's this building over here that has like glass corners to the building, and it is slightly transparent, only ever so slightly transparent, which still makes it worth it to take the camera inside and show you what exactly is going on the inside of this glass. And it's a giant spiral staircase, kinda. It looks like it uses concrete as the texture, and obviously stairs are not actually made, so it's more like a spiral wheelchair accessible ramp. We'll go with that. And then, oh my god, the freaking biker bar. This is just littered with all sorts of little goodies that I would love to show you. So once again, taking it into noclip.website, so there isn't like lighting that's hiding some of these details here. I want to take the camera over and start reading some of the stuff like Vice City Mambas, Jinbo, sparkling spring water beer. What? There's a Confederate flag. There's legitimate state license plates, which is kind of cool. Like we see a Georgia license plate, and I immediately spotted a Massachusetts license plate over here next to the Pours Light sign. Freaking love that. There's a sign here that says beware pickpockets and loose women. And there's two signs here. One says hippies use side door. Another one says please do not throw cigarette butts in urinal. It makes them soggy and hard to light. There's also graffiti that says been AWOL from the army. There's another sign that says danger men cooking. And a couple more parody beer signs like push light and dud wiener. Dud wiener. Oh my god, I just read that out loud. That was pretty good. And yeah, there's all sorts of other signs too. Hopefully you pause at some point to just check out a few others. But with that, we're gonna move on so that we can keep this video going. Next, we got the North Point Mall. Now this is really cool. If you take the camera inside this exterior building, you can see a texture for the interior of the building. At first I was like, oh, this is just a giant mess of textures. But no, this is literally low poly interior. I don't know why the developers decided to make interior that's also low poly, but here's a comparison to the interior of the mall when it's loaded in. And as you can see, it's generally the same blueprint. And I bet you're wondering where this office actually is in the world map, and it's not where you would think it would be. It's not where the entrance is. It's way out of the way here. And one of the cool things too is that in this first cutscene where you get into the office, the two objects that Tommy receives are stored somewhere in this map. Now this letter with a wax seal is actually sticking out of the desk a little bit, which is a bit risky considering that it could show up in cutscene angles. But yeah, here it is here, as well as the other note that he gets as well, stored underneath the desk, which is hidden a lot better. And although the game barely uses it for this scene, the floor does have a mirrored effect. It's why you see all the objects that are in the room upside down and underneath, is because the characters are supposed to be able to see the shine of everything that's above. And it's an old video game technique to just double up on everything and just, you know, make it in reverse in order to get that reflective technique. But as you can see, there's mostly a rug in this office, so you barely even get to see this effect at all. This effect is also used outside at this hotel or complex here. Taking the camera underneath can show you a massive re-up of the entire building. It's also just encased in a blue box, which is kind of cool. And now here's another really cool thing. This game uses mocap actors. And so if you take the camera over here and you look inside of this little staircase, you can see mocap actors waiting for their turn to walk into the scene. And one of the coolest things about this particular mocap animation is that you can see the actor about to walk up the staircase and either realize he wasn't meant to be in the scene just yet, or was just practicing the staircase or something. Either way, he had to walk backwards back into position and then start walking up the staircase when he was ready for his part in the scene.
I can only apologize.
Oh, de nada, amigo.
Similarly, when you go to visit the rock stars, if you watch this cutscene from Out of Bounds, you can see that the guy that was in the recording booth actually has a mocap animation of him walking around the recording booth and meeting up with the other guys, but there's no door for him to actually walk through. So instead, off camera, he is no-clipping through the wall in order to make it into the scene.
And what was your name again?
And then in this scene where you meet up with Dutch, I mean Avery Carrington, of course. His limo shows up and Tommy shows up inside of the limo, and then there's cutscenes inside of the limo. Taking the camera out though will actually show you that the limo is legit just now lime green with a gray door. Like, what the heck happened here? I would love to know. So I reached out to Obi, who gave us an explanation here. I'm gonna read it out to you. He said each car has two colors, a main color and a secondary one for smaller parts of the body. The color combinations are stored by the vehicle artist in a text file. For each car model, a number of color combinations are set up, and the code picks one at random. In addition, there were script commands so the level designers could override these colors. I'm guessing that's what happened here with the green Avery's limo. I have no idea why they would have picked green. Maybe it was a test left in. And then he asked me, how can you even see it's green when the camera's inside? Well, Obi, I hate to... Funny thing about that, welcome to Boundary Break. Anyway, similarly, there's a scene where Tommy and Lance are getting some guns out of a trunk. And would you believe it? It's actually not attached to the car that they were using. Taking the camera out will show you there's a completely separate model for this trunk. And it's completely black. You can't see any other colors or shading or whatever. And what's also super interesting too is that if you let this cutscene play out, you can see that the main characters here are now just sitting in an environment that's completely unloaded. The reason for this is for what's in the background over there. We got this scene cutaway with Ricardo looking at the security footage, which is away from the main characters, which means that they have to save on resources and load this scene in instead of the one with Tommy. Of course, that scene gets loaded back in once you actually see the camera perspective of the security cam footage. And now we're gonna be taking a look at all the different sea creatures in Vice City, because for whatever reason, this game included a crap load of sea creatures. And I thought for sure, like, as a person that never played Vice City before, like, I thought, okay, all these sea creatures are going to show up in like an aquarium somewhere in the game, but no, there is no aquarium, just the sea. And in this, you can see a dolphin, you can see sea fish, you can also see jellyfish, and the last one I was able to find was a sea turtle. And if you take the camera inside of the sea turtle, you can see that his neck is way longer than it would imply on the model itself. And of course, we want to stay on the topic of animals, but I just want to show you this mocap actress that walks off the boat and just freezes outside of the boat, which is kind of cool. But there is this point here where Tommy's being offered a piece of snout to eat from this creature over here. Wanted to take the camera up and give you a nice close look so that you can see just how detailed it is, which is fairly well detailed, honestly. They even went for the trouble of showing the meat slice on the back of its head if you were to take the camera behind. But even more interesting, if you take the camera inside of its head, you could see an entire texture for basically a salad underneath. Also wanted to show you that for some reason at this golf course, if you take the camera underneath the ground, you can see a couple of unused objects like a bridge as well as what looks like a lip to some sort of concrete area. Also wanted to show you some cool stuff like the Vercetti estate here. If you take the camera inside of the building before you go inside, you can see just how much of it is actually rendered. It's not a lot. And you can see goons just sort of walking around in nothingness, which is kind of neat. And also, during this cutscene here, this is a classic move on Boundary Break. There are two models for this cassette player, and before he shoots it, the damaged one is stored underneath the boundaries, and when he does shoot it, the damaged one is swapped out immediately with the clean one. Now the clean one is out of bounds. Here's another fun thing to point out. Characters use cutscene models whenever there's a cutscene so that there's more articulation to the eyes and mouths and stuff like that. So in the case of Tommy Vercetti, while in-game he doesn't really have eyeballs, in these scenes he does. Taking the camera inside will also show you something that's kind of, it's a little bit difficult to look at as a viewer, I'm sure, but it's rendered on both sides of the model. So we can see the inside of Tommy Vercetti's head and see the eyeballs, which almost makes it look like he just made a second face. But really what we're trying to look at here is the eyeballs and how they're not full spheres, they're instead half circles. Next up is a viewer request. As always, you can follow me on Twitter, but you can also follow me on Blue Sky now if you want. I'll have the links down below. Anyways, they wanted to know what it looks like when you're shooting out of the car. And specifically first person mode, but I'll show you too, you know, the third person mode. You can see that Tommy's neck is sort of like stuck to the back of the seat and it makes it look very uncomfortable for him. I don't know why this happens. I'm assuming it's for clipping reasons or something, but it's still funny to look at. But when you go into first person mode, everything disappears. Tommy disappears, the car disappears, it all gets culled out, and all that you're left with is the shadow to prove that the car is even still there. But yeah, that's how they pull this little effect off here. Everything just goes. And then there was the pole position building, and I took the camera inside here from the exterior, and I saw a cocktail glass as well as smoke, and I was like, what's going on here? Because when you take the camera inside of the interior part of the building, this stuff is loaded in with the room. I asked Obi what's up with this, and this is what he had to say. He said, for San Andreas, we had a proper system for interiors where the code would facilitate the transition between outside world and interiors. The interiors would be placed 1,000 meters into the sky. The code would do everything necessary when the player entered the interior. For Vice City, this system didn't exist yet. The level designers would write scripts for each transition. This would include fading the screen in and out, setting flags to change the outside models to low level of detail, and switching the interior invisibility. Changing flags to disable exterior ambient sound, stream, or in layman's terms, load characters and place them, like the bartender behind the bar, and then when the player leaves, it all has to be done in reverse. It seems that from your footage that one or two things are not properly restored on the transition interior to exterior. That's interesting. That's really interesting. But one thing I should have asked him when I had him on the line was, what's up with this mission portal that's on the interior? Why is it just resting above the interior like this? Well, maybe next time. Also, in relation to what we just talked about, if you take the camera inside the Malibu from the exterior, you could see way more table settings than you would ever see in the interior. As you can see, I have this area loaded up. There is not as many table dressings as you clearly just saw. Even if you do a cutscene, there's even less than that. And funny enough, even though we just talked about how San Andreas is the game that has all the interiors that are high up in the sky, The one interior that is actually really high up in the sky and kind of moved off into the corner of the entire map are all the dirt ring arenas. So any single one of these areas that look similar to one another, they all hang out in the same spot. And although most of Vice City is not actually loaded in, all the empty squares kind of show you where the landmass would be. So you can kind of get an idea of where it would be on the map. In fact, I positioned it so that it looks exactly like you're looking at the map. And while I got you here, I might as well just move the camera right back into that environment so that you can just see how this is all real. This is actually happening. Now, if you stand inside the interior of the Vercetti estate, you can see a large portion of Vice City, for whatever reason, is actually loaded in at any time. It's all low poly though, which is really cool because you get to see certain things and certain textures you're not supposed to see. Like on top of this building's roof, you can see low quality textures of Vice City's roads itself. And that's all I got for now. Like I said, if you want to see the exclusive content over on Patreon, it's only going to be for the lowest tier, so it's not going to cost you much, and it's going to help me out a ton. So if you want to support the show and also get a little something in return, it means a lot, so thank you so much. If you're new, there's more Grand Theft Auto videos I'm going to put on the screen right now. And beyond that, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you again soon, and hope you check out some of the other stuff. Anyways, I'm going to take off for now. Take care.